Hi, welcome to How to Repair. Is your washing machine not emptying? And on Hotpoint and Indesit machines, you've got F05 showing up in your display. If you do not have a digital display and you have the LED version, then it will be the second and fourth light on the side or the second and fourth light at the bottom, depending on which control panel you have. Okay, in this video we're going to be actually tackling the F05 error code, meaning that the machine was unable to empty the water in the allocated period of time. There are basically 6 reasons why this may happen. One is you've got a blocked filter, which is an easy job, but I will still show you how to do it. 2, you may have a small item of clothing or an elastic band or some other item jamming the impeller. 3, the motor will need testing or could be burnt out. 4 is the sump hose, which connects the actual pump to the drum, may have a blockage. Number 5, the waste hose system may have a restriction somewhere. This can either be from a kink or a non-return valve may be not working correctly. And the last is the sink fitting. If you have it connected underneath your sink, this also can cause problem with fatty water. And I'll be showing you all these in this video. Okay, the first thing you need to do is actually drain the drum down, and I suggest you unplug it from the electricity supply before doing this. Now, on some models of machine, you are able to go at the back of the machine and actually the waste pipe is attached to the bottom of the machine. So if you put this down onto ground level and use a shallow bowl, the water will siphon out of the machine. But on other occasions, it's a bit of a messy job, and you will actually need to take the plinth off and then actually using a bowl, and I suggest using a shallow bowl, to actually undo the filter and just let the water come out of the machine in a controlled fashion. This may need to be done multiple times by doing the filter up and stopping the water while you empty the bowl. As I always say, shit happens. People leave stuff in their pockets, and I have seen so much damage done to the machines because of what people leave in their pockets when doing a wash. But you get coins, bits of plastic. Plastic gets wrapped around the actual filter, and as I said, which we'll be going into after, the sump hose as well. Small bits of plastic like this can all get lodged inside the filter, and this is one of the most common problems. You really need to clean this at least once every couple of weeks. This machine was actually 18 months old and it was thrown away. I actually picked this machine up from one of the suppliers, and actually looking in the back of the pump, even with a torch, you think the pump is turning freely. But the fact is, if you look closely, and I'm going to zoom in for you now, a small band has actually got wrapped around the impeller, and the motor does not have enough power to turn the impeller to actually empty the water from the machine. Now I've set my torch up and I'm just going to slowly zoom in, and if you look at the top left hand side, and I've got my long hook here, this is actually what is wrapped. I might have to take the pump off, and nope, this is actually what is wrapped around the impeller. This looks like it's off some type of shirt or blouse, and something has got wrapped around it. And I can still see a small bit of plastic at the back there. Any small item like this can cause problems where, and I might need to use the pliers to get at this. Excuse my hands getting in the way. I don't know. Small bit of plastic, and there's a couple more bits in there as well, and you need to make sure this is turning completely freely. You could even go to the point of actually disconnecting the pump if it's an AC pump and hot wiring a mains lead up onto it to actually turn the impeller to make sure it's running freely. Now I've just noticed that this machine has got a spin only cycle, so I'm just going to start the machine for you, and you can see the impeller turning freely now. You want to make sure, if you're doing this, that you have a spin cycle only. Do not put it on a rinse or it'll start filling with water. Next is the sump hose. Now this is attached to the bottom of the machine on the drum and connected to the pump. Now I do not know why Hotpoint and Indesit make this so hard, because the front panel on these machines are welded. This means that you cannot take the front panel off. The only way you would normally be able to gain access is from underneath the machine. And this means that I have to lean the machine forward as far as I can, tilt it backwards, and I'm going to have to keep sliding it backwards so I can film it for you, and then we're able to gain access from underneath here. Okay, there's two attachments, one to the drum, which is a Phillips screwdriver, and then we've got a little clip at the top. First we'll deal with the sump hose, and then we're going to have a look at the waste hose as well, and I'll show you how to drop the motor off on the actual pump. But just pressing the clip down and moving it backwards, you'll be able to bring this away. This little chamber here is meant to really collect coins or anything else. Then we've got the actual clamp for the sump hose, and in here is normally a ball, which is an anti-siphon ball, which is designed to keep the detergent in the drum when you actually start the machine. Now I haven't taken this hose off, so I don't know if there's anything in here. Here is the ball, and this can be popped out, and you can clean all the way through here. Now there is nothing actually in here, but the amount of small baby clothing I have seen over the last 35 to 40 years inside these machines, in these sump hoses, everything from coins, builders screws, nuts, bolts, wedding rings I've had in the machine, all sorts of things. The amount of jewellery and other bits and pieces is incredible. But this all needs to be cleaned through and made sure that there is nothing in this hose whatsoever that's blocking the machine. Okay, you've got a couple of ways of actually inspecting the pump motor, the one-way return valve if fitted on the machine, and also the housing itself. Now I'm quickly going to show you taking it apart from this angle, for the simple reason this is the way I think you would be doing it at home. But there are a couple of screws on the front where we could drop the whole pump system off. But I'm just quickly going to have a look at this drain hose, and I want to see if there's a one-way return valve, because some pumps have got a one-way return valve and others don't. But you can see the crud that's building up in there already, and this has got a one-way return valve. Let me explain. Things like the sump hose and also this one-way return valve, if you've not used the machine for a long period of time, these valves and the ball that's in the sump hose can actually jam. And this means that they actually stick as they're drying out to the plastic. And then the first time you use the machine, it may not empty because it's stuck to the actual plastic. So we will take this pump off to have a look at it. But if you were testing the pump in this situation, you could disconnect the electrical connections. And on some of these pumps, you've got a little pin in the middle of the spade connector, which actually has to be pressed down to release it off the motor. Now we could also drop the actual motor off the back of the pump housing, and I'm going to do this in situ so you can see. So there's just 3 screws. You need to really put a mark lining it up onto the plastic so you make sure you put the motor back in the same location. Well worth doing that. And just support the pump as you undo the last screw. There's normally only ever 3 screws on these pumps, and once it's undone you'll be able to give it a wriggle and it will come away. Now what I'm quickly going to do now is just undo the screws at the top. There's only 2 on this machine, to take away the pump housing, to show you the one-way return valve. And here is the one-way return valve. I'll just see if I can poke it up. So this flap is actually designed, as the pump is pumping out the water, it opens, and then once it's stopped, it shuts. This stops dirty water coming back from the sink unit or somewhere like that into the machine, and also restricts the flow. There are a couple of perforation holes in there, and I just found another coin. But basically these, if left over a long period of time, can actually sort of glue themselves to the plastic, and the same with that ball in the sump hose. Okay, here we have the pump, and the pump is a 25 watt and it's a 220 to 240 volt 50 hertz frequency pump. Now the only test you can really do with this is checking the windings. You can either set the meter to continuity and just go across, and that's got continuity, or you could set it to ohms, say a 2k range, and that'll give you the ohms reading, which we've got roughly about 270, 280 ohms. But that just tells us that the windings are good. It necessarily doesn't mean that the actual pump itself is good. Now, an easy way of testing this, and I'm just turning my meter off here, I've got a little test lead here, and basically some insulated spade connectors on it. So I'll just put one on each, and I'll leave the motor side on so you can see. Let me just tuck that in there, and then I can put the plug into the test meter, and this will show me the wattage that's being drawn. You can see the pump is turning. It will take a second or two to come through, but under no load this pump is drawing 6 watts of power. Of course, once it's under load and there's water in the machine, it would be pulling around 20 watts, 25 watts of power. But that's basically a simple test for testing the motor. Okay, the last two things are quite simple. One, if you've had any of the pipework moved at the back of the machine, or you have taken the machine out recently and pushed the machine back in, you want to make sure this pipe has not been kinked in any way, as this will restrict the flow of water. The next one is actually the sink fittings. A lot of people do not have stanchion pipes, and they have it connected to a sink fitting, which is normally a push fit, and this connects to the drainage unit on the sink. Now, if this is actually blocked in any way, if you imagine on a Sunday or Saturday you may be having a family meal and you pour fat down the sink, this builds up inside the pipes. It's also, on some of the fittings, there is a cross member inside these plastic fittings which can collect particles of hair and fabric, and this can also restrict the flow of water going through the machine. The last thing I would say is, if you're still having intermittent problems or the machine is just not emptying, take it away from the existing waste fittings and try and empty the machine into a bucket of water. Doing it like this, you will actually see the flow of water coming out of the machine. And if it's a good flow like this, you know the pump system is working correctly. There's a link in the description below to any spare parts that you require for your Hotpoint or Indesit machine. Please remember to hit the like button or subscribe, as that really does help our YouTube channel. Thanks very much indeed for watching this video, and if we really helped you, you can always click on the Buy Paul a Beer page and donate to the website. Thanks very much indeed for watching.